Tina Williams, a struggling 23-year-old cleaner, never expected her next job would change her life forever. Sent to a cold, sterile penthouse in wealthy Greenwich, Connecticut, Tina hears the desperate cries of a baby and discovers a grieving father on the edge of collapse. As she soothes infant Helena with a simple act of human connection, Tina is pulled into a fragile family teetering on the edge of breaking. What begins as a moment of compassion becomes a life-changing bond. But when custody battles, secrets, and power plays threaten to tear them apart, Tina must choose: return to the life she knew or fight for the family she never saw coming. This is a story you will want to sit back and enjoy. Before we start, I would like you to subscribe, like, and comment on this video from where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories. Let us begin. Tina Williams stood rigid inside the spotless elevator, her reflection distorted in the mirrored walls as the numbers above the doors blinked upward. Penthouse. She swallowed hard. Outside, Greenwich, Connecticut shimmered with opulence. Inside the tower, it felt like another planet, one she had no passport for. At 23, Tina had hoped for more than this. More than mopping polished marble floors and scrubbing away the fingerprints of strangers who didn't even learn her name. She had left her little Appalachian town behind chasing something better, something bigger, but she hadn't realized how easy it was to feel small in a city built on cold glass and silent money. The elevator dinged softly. She stepped into the penthouse, 3,800 square feet of pristine, impossible perfection. White walls, sleek furniture, Persian rugs, curated art. Nothing out of place. No fingerprints. No laughter. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a museum. The client was Ryan Miller, a high-powered executive whose name she'd only heard once before in the news, some corporate merger or IPO or something equally unreachable. All she knew today was that he had called for an emergency cleaning, and the agency sent her. His instructions had been clear: clean everything. Leave no trace behind. Don't touch what you shouldn't. Tina's boots barely made a sound on the plush carpet as she moved from room to room. The air was still, faintly perfumed with lavender and polish. Every inch of the penthouse screamed luxury and emptiness. No shoes by the door, no toys on the floor, no dishes in the sink. She had just begun dusting the fireplace mantle when a sound broke through the silence. A faint, muffled cry. She froze. It wasn't mechanical, not a TV or a glitching audio system. It was soft, organic, growing louder. A baby. Tina's breath caught. That couldn't be right. Ryan Miller was supposed to be at a conference in Chicago, and his wife. She remembered the receptionist saying she'd passed away. The baby cried again, sharper now. Real, urgent. Tina set down the feather duster and followed the sound, her steps growing faster with each whimper. She climbed the grand staircase, heart pounding, scanning the long hallway lined with closed doors. At the end, slightly ajar, was one that stood out. A soft pink glow spilled into the hallway. She nudged the door open and stopped cold. Inside was a nursery, a beautiful, tender space filled with warmth unlike anything else in the home. Painted animals danced on the walls. A mobile spun lazily above a white crib. Plush toys lined the shelves, and in the crib, red-faced and wailing, was a baby. Tina crossed the room without thinking. Her hands trembled as she reached into the crib and lifted the tiny girl. The child's cries slowed, then stopped completely. The baby melted into Tina's arms like she had been waiting for her. Her tiny fists balled into Tina's shirt. Her breathing slowed. Tina could barely breathe herself. The child was heartbreakingly small, no more than 3 months old, and she was warm, fragile, real. A lump rose in Tina's throat as she whispered without thinking, "Princess, where is your mama?" Then, "Who are you?" Tina turned sharply. A man stood in the doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, his suit wrinkled, tie loosened, dark hair slightly disheveled. His face was lined with exhaustion, the kind you don't get from a long workday, but from grief that is nowhere left to go. Tina clutched the baby protectively, unsure why. "I'm here from the cleaning service," she stammered. "I heard her crying. I didn't think anyone was home." His gaze darkened. "How long has she been quiet?" Tina blinked. Since I picked her up. He stepped into the room slowly, like every movement cost him something. He looked at the baby. Something in his expression crumpled. I'm Ryan Miller, he said quietly. And that's my daughter, Helena. A heavy silence filled the room. Tina looked around. There were photos of Ryan holding Helena smiling, forced, and one striking black and white picture of a radiant woman holding her pregnant belly. But nothing else. No baby bottles. No diapers in sight. No trace of a mother. Where's your wife? Tina asked softly. Ryan's jaw tightened. She died during childbirth. Tina's heart broke a little. She looked down at Helena, now peacefully curled into her chest. She's beautiful. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. She cries constantly. Hasn't stopped in weeks. I've hired help. None of them worked. But now she's quiet. With you. He hesitated, eyes full of something raw. Desperation. You calmed her. I can't even do that. He took a breath. Would you consider staying? Tina blinked. What? I don't need a cleaner, Ryan said. I need someone to help me. With her. Someone she connects with. Just think about it. Tina didn't answer. Couldn't. The weight of the baby in her arms wasn't just physical. It was emotional, heavy with meaning, and something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose. And then, just as Tina began to wonder what her answer might be, Ryan's phone buzzed. He answered quickly, stepping out into the hallway. But something about the tone of his voice shifted. Lowered. Urgent. Tina leaned closer to the doorway, heart thudding. She could only hear fragments of the conversation, and then Ryan's voice dropped to a whisper. She can't find out she was here. Tina froze. Who couldn't find out she was there? And why? Her grip on Helena tightened as the baby stirred. Tina had stepped into this house as a stranger, but now, she might be holding a secret she was never meant to uncover. Tina didn't move, not even when Ryan's footsteps grew distant down the hallway. She stood in the nursery, Helena nestled in her arms, replaying his words like a warning bell in her head. She can't find out she was here. Who was she? A girlfriend? A relative? A lawyer? The words had weight. Too much weight to be nothing. Tina shook it off. She couldn't jump to conclusions. Maybe it was none of her business. Maybe Helena stirred, her soft whimper pulling Tina back down to earth. The baby needed a diaper, something. Tina glanced around the room, noting the carefully placed toys and decorative blankets, but not a single bottle or wipe in sight. Even the essentials were missing. She stepped lightly out into the hallway, her arms still cradling Helena. The penthouse stretched in every direction, silent and intimidating, but she found the kitchen after some quiet exploring. The space was gleaming, untouched, almost sterile. Opening the fridge, she frowned. No formula, no breast milk, no baby food, just bottled water, cold brew, and high-end leftovers. Tina's heart squeezed painfully. This wasn't just grief. This was neglect. She looked down at Helena. The baby's head rested against her shoulder now, her thumb seeking Tina's collar. Holding on to her. Tina didn't think she couldn't, not yet. She just moved. She found a clean tea towel, laid it over her shoulder, and walked Helena back to the nursery. She didn't know how long Ryan would be gone, but the baby needed her. For now, that was all that mattered. Time passed in stillness, broken only by Helena's soft breaths and the sound of a distant door closing. Ryan was back. Tina remained in the nursery, rocking Helena in the chair by the window as golden light filtered in. When he appeared at the door, he was no longer on the phone, but the lines on his face were deeper, his eyes guarded. I didn't mean for you to hear that, he said. Tina didn't reply. She waited. Ryan stepped into the room. You're probably wondering, yes, she interrupted, gently. I am. He let out a long breath and rubbed the back of his neck. There's someone from my wife's family, he said. Her sister, Meredith. She's been challenging the will, trying to gain custody of Helena since the funeral. Said I'm not fit to be a father. He gave a short, bitter laugh. After losing Rachel, they tried to take everything. And now, they want Helena too. Tina stared. She's your daughter. Doesn't matter, he said bitterly. Meredith claims I'm emotionally unstable. that I work too much, and that Helena would be better off with her. Tina thought of the empty fridge, the unused diapers, the echoing silence of the penthouse. She didn't know what Meredith was like, but maybe Ryan wasn't entirely wrong to fear he was failing. And what was that call about? She asked gently. She's flying in, he replied. Tomorrow, to observe Helena. Try to prove I'm incapable. A beat of silence passed between them. She can't see you here, he added after a moment, regret touching his voice. She'll twist it. Say I hired someone without clearance. Use it against me. Tina felt the sting of that. So what exactly do you want from me? She asked. I don't know, he admitted, eyes haunted. But I do know Helena needs you. I need you, and I'm running out of time. That night, Tina lay on the small guest bed Ryan offered her, staring at the ceiling. She was only supposed to clean, to sweep and mop and leave. But now, there was a child, a man losing his grip, and a storm coming in the form of a woman named Meredith. She glanced over at the bassinet beside her, where Helena lay asleep, her breathing soft and steady. Tina hadn't expected this. A connection, a purpose, a choice. She didn't know what staying would mean, but she knew what leaving would. The next morning, Tina woke to the sound of hushed voices, two of them echoing from the living room. She slipped out of bed, her stomach tight. As she approached, she could hear the conversation more clearly. A woman's voice clipped, commanding, "And you think this is a suitable environment? Look at this place, Ryan. No staff, no schedule, and you looking like you haven't slept in weeks." Ryan responded low and tense. She's safe. She's cared for. That's what matters. I'll be the judge of that. Tina turned the corner and paused in the hallway. Standing in the center of the pristine living room was Meredith, elegant, cold, with perfectly styled blonde hair and calculating eyes that narrowed the second she spotted Tina. And who exactly is she? Meredith demanded. Ryan turned to Tina, but he said nothing. Tina's feet froze in place, but her heart thundered in her chest. Meredith's gaze sliced through the room like a dagger. I asked a question, she said. Who is she? Tina opened her mouth to speak, but Ryan got there first. She's just helping out temporarily, he said, his voice carefully even. A cleaning agency sent her. Meredith's eyes narrowed. Funny, she doesn't look like she's here to mop floors. Tina felt the burn of shame rise in her throat. Her arms ached with the memory of Helena sleeping against her chest, trusting her. And now, she was being dismissed like some shadow in the room. Meredith stepped closer, her heels silent on the polished floor. Does she have certifications? Background checks? CPR training? She turned to Tina. Do you have any idea what kind of responsibility it is to care for an infant, Miss Williams? Tina said quietly, standing her ground. And no, I'm not certified. But I wasn't hired to be her nanny. I was just, she hesitated. I was just the only one here when she was crying. And now, you're playing house? Meredith said coldly. Wonderful. Ryan stepped forward, but Meredith held up her hand. I told you once, Ryan, she snapped, her voice tightening. You don't get to stumble through parenthood with trial and error. Not when a baby's life is involved. She's my doll, Ryan said sharply. Will's daughter too, Meredith snapped back. And if Rachel could see you, she'd be appalled. The silence that followed was thick. Tina swallowed the ache in her chest. She wanted to leave, to walk out and never look back. But just then Helena cried. The sound came from down the hall, piercing the tense air. And without thinking, both Tina and Meredith turned toward it. Meredith hesitated. Tina didn't. She was already moving, her feet pulling her toward the nursery as if drawn by instinct. Inside, Helena's tiny fists flailed, her face red with distress. Tina reached the crib and scooped her up with practiced ease. Shh, it's okay, sweetheart, she whispered. Almost instantly, Helena's wails softened, then faded. Ryan appeared in the doorway seconds later. He said nothing, just stared. Meredith joined behind him, lips pressed tight. She recognizes her, Meredith said under her breath. She trusts, Ryan corrected. Tina didn't look up. She kept rocking Helena, her chin resting lightly on the baby's head. It was the only place she felt certain now. Meredith crossed her arms. Then I want to speak to her alone. Ryan hesitated. That's not necessary, it is if you don't want this to go to court. Ryan turned to Tina, clearly conflicted, but she nodded. It's okay. Meredith led her to the kitchen like a warden marching a prisoner. The moment they were alone, she dropped the mask of civility. I've dealt with your type before, she said coolly. Girls who latch on to grieving men with money. You think you've found a shortcut. You haven't. Tina's lips parted, stunned. You're not special. You're temporary. And if you truly cared about Helena, you'd leave before you do permanent damage. The words struck like ice in Tina's veins. But instead of shrinking, she straightened. I'm not here for Ryan's money, she said, voice low but firm. I'm here because that little girl stopped crying in my arms. And maybe I don't have a certificate to prove I care, but I do. Meredith studied her, a flash of something uncertain in her eyes, but it was gone just as fast. You have until the end of the week, she said, stepping away. After that, if I see you near this child again, we'll take legal action. Tina's fists clenched at her sides. So you'd rather Helena cry herself sick with strangers than be comforted by someone who actually loves her? Love isn't enough, Meredith replied. Not in court. She walked away, her heels clicking like punctuation marks of power. That night, Ryan stood by the window, drink in hand, his eyes distant. I'm sorry, he said finally. I didn't mean to dismiss you. I just didn't want to give her ammunition. She already has it. Tina murmured. Helena lay sleeping in her arms again, a small bundle of innocence in a war she never chose. Ryan turned. I meant it. You know what I said before. She trusts you. I do too. Tina looked at him for a long time. Then fight for her, and let me help you. Ryan stared into her eyes, as if searching for something to anchor himself, and then he said the last thing she expected. I think I love you. The silence cracked between them. Tina looked down at Helena, and then a knock at the door. Loud, firm, repeated. Ryan turned toward it, frowning. Tina's heart lurched. It was far too late for visitors. The knock came again, louder this time. Sharp demand. Ryan's jaw clenched. Stay here, he said, moving toward the door. Tina remained rooted in place, her arms wrapped tightly around Helena. The baby stirred slightly, but didn't cry. The apartment was too quiet. Ryan opened the door. Two sharply dressed figures stood in the hallway, one in a tailored gray suit, holding a clipboard, the other in a navy blue pantsuit with a badge clipped to her hip. Mr. Miller? The woman asked. Yes. We're from the Department of Child and Family Services. We've received an urgent welfare complaint regarding the care of an infant on this property. Tina's blood went cold. The man stepped forward. We'll need to come inside immediately. Ryan stood his ground. Do you have a warrant? The woman calmly pulled out a folded document. We have legal authority to assess the environment for any signs of neglect or risk. If everything is fine, we'll be gone shortly. Ryan stepped aside, jaw tense, eyes flaring with helpless anger. Come in. Tina stood just outside the nursery, Helena still in her arms. The woman's gaze locked on her instantly. And you are? Tina Williams. I was hired through a cleaning agency. But she hesitated. I've been helping with the baby. The woman's expression was unreadable, but Tina caught the flicker of judgment in her eyes. Are you a licensed caregiver? No. Family? Tina looked down at Helena. No. The man scribbled on his clipboard. Ryan stepped forward. She's the only person who's been able to calm Helena in weeks. She's not a risk, she's the only thing keeping this household functioning. The woman turned to Tina. May I see the baby? Tina reluctantly handed Helena over, heart thudding. Helena whimpered at the unfamiliar arms, a small cry escaping her lips. The woman gently examined her. She's healthy, clean, fed. Then, almost as if to prove her point, Helena began to cry louder. She reached toward Tina, her tiny fingers flailing. Tina reached out instinctively. The woman hesitated, then handed her back, and just like that, Helena calmed. Silence fell again. The agents exchanged a glance. Thank you, Mr. Miller, the woman said. We'll file our preliminary report. but I suggest you avoid any further unregistered caregivers until the investigation concludes. A formal evaluation will be scheduled, and then they were gone. The door clicked shut. Tina's knees nearly gave out. She did this, she whispered. Meredith filed the complaint. Ryan said nothing at first. His face was pale with fury, hands trembling slightly. I should have seen it coming, he muttered. Tina sat slowly on the couch, Helena still pressed to her chest. How much power does she really have? She's already gotten into my head, Ryan said. Now, she's going after the one person who actually helped me breathe again. He paced the room, stopping in front of the window. I can't lose her, Tina. I can't lose either of you. Tina stared at him, something trembling beneath her ribs. You said something last night, she whispered. Before the knock. Ryan turned. I remember. Did you mean it? He took a step forward. Every word. Tina stood. Then, don't let her win. Don't let fear decide what kind of father you are, what kind of man you can be. He stared at her, eyes full of pain. Yes, but something else too. Resolve. Then Helena let out a soft hiccup, and Tina gently rocked her. We have to protect her, Tina said. We will, Ryan said. I'm done being afraid of Meredith. Tomorrow, file for full custody with you as part of the petition. Tina blinked. What? She'll come after me anyway. But she won't expect this. He stepped closer. If you're willing. I want you to be more than a helper. I want you by our side. Tina looked down at Helena. She wasn't ready. Not in the traditional sense. Not by the world's standards. But love had already happened. And once it does, there's no going back. I'm with you, she said. No matter what. But just as the words settled, the doorbell rang again. Ryan's face tightened. Now what? He opened the door, and standing there, umbrella in hand, was Meredith. Her eyes fell on Tina, and she smiled. Rain whispered against the windows as Meredith stepped inside, the marble floors catching the soft tap of her designer heels. She didn't remove her coat. She didn't wait to be offered anything. Her eyes found Tina first, then Helena, then Ryan. You've made your decision clear, she said, her voice sharp but steady. But so have I. Ryan crossed his arms, jaw tight. You've already filed the complaint. Is this about gloating now? Meredith gave a dry smile. No, I'm here because I wanted to see your caretaker before the hearing. Tina shifted Helena in her arms, but said nothing. Meredith walked slowly toward them. I read the preliminary case notes. Interesting, isn't it? No experience, no relation, no medical or psychological credentials. Yet here she is holding my niece, like she belongs here. She does belong here, Ryan snapped. She's the only one who's ever made Helena feel safe. Meredith tilted her head. Or maybe she's just convenient, temporary, disposable, like the others. Tina's grip on Helena tightened, but her voice stayed calm. I'm not here because it's easy. I stayed because she needed someone who wouldn't leave. The words hung heavy between them. For once, Meredith didn't fire back immediately. She looked down at Helena, whose wide eyes studied her. No recognition in them, just blankness, discomfort. She doesn't know me, Meredith said quietly. Because you've never tried, Ryan said, his voice gentler now. Didn't know how, Meredith replied, almost to herself. When Rachel died, I didn't know how to be her. I didn't know how to step into her place. And neither did I, Ryan admitted. But I'm doing it every day, and so is Tina. Meredith's jaw trembled slightly, but she caught it, straightened her spine. You filed for full custody? She asked. Ryan nodded. With Tina as a co-guardian? Yes. Meredith looked at Tina again. This time, really looked. There was no superiority in her eyes now, just sorrow, and maybe, for a moment, recognition. She needs stability, Meredith said softly. And it seems you've managed to give her some. I can't argue with that, Tina blinked. Are you saying you're dropping the case? No, Meredith replied. I'm saying, I'll testify in your favor, with conditions. Ryan stiffened. What kind of conditions? That you don't cut me out, Meredith said, her voice cracking just slightly. That I get to see Helena, be in her life, learn how to be something to her. Tina and Ryan exchanged a glance. It wasn't what they expected, but maybe it was what Helena deserved. Agreed, Ryan said, but not on your terms. On hers. When she's ready. Meredith nodded, slowly. Then she turned to Tina. You're stronger than I thought. Tina gave a small smile. So are you. 3 months later, the apartment was no longer silent. Toys cluttered the floor. Finger paintings clung to the fridge. The nursery glowed with laughter and late-night lullabies. Tina stood in the kitchen, rocking Helena on her hip, humming under her breath. Ryan entered with 2 steaming mugs of coffee. She said your name today, he whispered with a grin. Tina turned. She did? Ryan nodded. Tina. Twice. Swear it. Tina looked down at Helena, tears stinging her eyes. They'd made it. Not without hardship, not without scars, but they'd made it. Ryan reached out and touched Tina's cheek gently. You changed everything, he murmured. No, she replied, smiling. She did. They looked at Helena, now giggling in her mother's arms. Her mother, because titles weren't earned by blood, they were earned in late nights and lullabies, in diaper changes and whispered prayers, and staying when walking away would have been easier.